What happens with entrepreneurs getting the branding not dialed in, not understanding the ideal buyers, what happens is their mindset isn't dialed in. And then they give up, they pivot, they go to another brand, and they do the same thing. And then before you know it, they're now working for someone else or they're doing something else. It's everything I've seen from entrepreneurship always comes back down to mindset. 100%, everything is mindset.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business, but launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answers. Here is Bedros Keuilian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Welcome back, my friend, to another amazing episode of the Fitness Franchise Podcast. And before I tee up today's guest, I want to give you a friendly reminder to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and write us an awesome review on iTunes. That way we can keep producing this content for you for free. So now to tee up today's guest, who's a dear friend of mine, who's also a serial entrepreneur who began his entrepreneurial career back in 2010. He has scaled over 10 different companies, and he's been listed as a top entrepreneur and visionary by Entrepreneur.com. He's also worked with brands such as Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, and a variety of 7 and 9 figure brands, including Fit Body Bootcamp. And today you're going to learn the value of personal branding and motivating followers. Welcome to the show, my friend, Mr. Jon Boles. Jon Boles, my friend, dude, welcome to the show.
What is up, brother?
Man, so super excited about this.
Same.
We've been planning it for a while, and you're in town from Arizona, so a lot of awesome content to cover today. But my first question for you is our audience would love to know, what's the backstory? How did this all start?
Man, so let's take the past 12 or 15 years. I always tell people that when you go through coaching, your own spiritual journey, whether you're successful, not successful, it always stems from something that happened in your life. So a lot of people look at the position we're in now and they're like, oh, you're crushing it, you've done amazing. Well, how did you get started? Mm-hmm. So kind of bring you through the backstory a little bit. So high school, born in Racine, Wisconsin, very slow pace kind of town. It's not like, you're LA, and I know you're from Detroit, so very similar situation. I knew at the age of 4 that I wanted to be a business owner. And a lot of people laugh when I say that. There's no way. My parents actually have stories of pulling up to construction sites and me telling them, like, I want to be the business owner. They were laughing, didn't believe me. And after a couple of questions, them pointing different people out, I was like, no, the business owner is that one with the clip, different construction hat, clipboard, etc. But when you grow up different from the rest of, people, and you want to be a business owner at the age of 4, you see visions, you see things differently. It works in today's day and age, and it helps you become successful. But picture the trauma a child like that goes through. You don't fit in school, you don't pay attention in class. So all throughout grade school and high school, I just didn't take it serious. I didn't pay attention. It didn't interest me. I wanted to build things and create things. And a lot of people, the biggest question of, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? And the answer is true for both of them. But I believe I was put on this earth to create, to provide value, to make make a giant impact and leave the earth a better place than when I found it. And it started at that age where I just wanted to create things. Like even today at 33 years old, with all the companies I have and all the brands that we build, I attribute it back to like 4 years old playing with Legos. Like I'm just having fun. Like I enjoy building things and helping people, and it's like it makes me wake up more hungry every single day. So totally. In a roundabout way, that's kind of how I got started, with entrepreneurship and things like that. Didn't really pay attention to school that much. Hit rock bottom, at probably about 20 years old, got mixed up with the wrong group, went down a really, really dark path. Parents basically cut me off and said, if you don't change today, like we're done. And we can go into that if you want to. I've done other, podcasts where I've gone into that as well.
Let's go. I mean, drugs, alcohol, what?
Yeah. So, grew up in a middle-class family. Parents didn't do uber well, but we weren't, poor by any means. They provided a phenomenal life for me and the family. Parents got divorced, which a lot of people can probably relate to. 5 years old on Christmas morning.
That's when they got divorced?
So let's just pause for a second. Christmas morning. I'm in the living room, old school Hitachi TV set, color TV obviously, but old school TV set up, and I have a Power Ranger in my left hand and a Nerf gun in my right hand. And I was the only child. I had a half brother that lived in a different state. And I'm like, where's everybody? Where's my family? and it was silent, and picture like being alone on Christmas morning, you open up your toys, even though it's just you and your parents, but there's no one in the living room. You can't find anyone. And you go into the kitchen. And your two greatest people that you look up to, your mom and dad, are both at the kitchen table, and they're just sobbing. So much water on the table that I could literally, it looked like it was about to melt. And I look at the door, and I can still view what that looks like today, like as if we're right here. And my dad's bags were packed at the door. And my dad was my dad's still my best friend, talk to him every single day. And at 5 years old, I lost control, I lost security, I lost my everything, which obviously comes full circle to entrepreneurship. And I felt that if the world could take everything from me, why should I continue to give the world my everything? Like my family just got broken up. Everything just got torn away from me. At 5 years old, I had the mental capacity to understand really what was happening while also still being a child and not fully really understanding what's happening. But I got made fun of all throughout grade school. I was the only divorced family in town. So picture being at recess, your family's already broken up, your dad's living in a different city. Recess every single day you get picked on. So I got bullied and picked on, and that's really helped me evolve to who I am today with the grit and tenacity that you have to go through. So let's just keep fast forwarding that. That's a little bit of trauma that I've had at 4 or 5 years old, raised by, a single mom and then my dad. That goes into me rebelling in my teens and going down the wrong path and getting mixed up with drugs. And, without going into full detail, started selling drugs at the age of 16, 17. I didn't look at it as I was selling drugs. I was playing with Legos. Remember what I said about building things and creating things and building brands? I didn't know what I was doing to the world. I didn't know that I was helping addiction. I didn't know what drug addiction was. I didn't know all these negative things that came with it. And I just saw it as a business. I was making, multiple 6 figures, 7 figures at 17 years old. I had money in the wall. I had money in my mattress. Like I had more money than I knew what to do with.
Like straight up operation.
It's 16, 17 years old, and I found out like I was on a watch list. Like I was a couple weeks away from going to prison for 30 or 40 years if I didn't stop what I was doing.
Dang.
Long story short, that gets into me actually getting addicted to my own drugs. So I got addicted to opiates, Oxycontin, Vicodin, Percocet, etc. All the money I just mentioned went out the window, literally had nothing. Very traumatic experience for my family along with myself. Obviously, me telling you a 2-minute story doesn't go into the full depth of it.
Sure.
But my parents basically tricked me to meet at my mom's salon. I forgot what they told me, but I got tricked to go there. There was a bag that was packed right next to me and that says, get in the effing car or you're dead to us. We want nothing to do with you. Because they'd call me every day and they're like, I just want to make sure you're alive. Parents sobbing on the phone, 19, 20 years old.
They're that concerned, like at the directive where you're going.
It was at that point, yeah. So it was, my mom, in between meeting with clients, picture calling your baby boy just to see if he's alive, and he's a grown adult. He's 19 years old. Yes. So it tore my family apart, and drug addiction is real. It's a horrible thing, and it's probably one of the most difficult things I had to go through. But I'm so glad I did, and it didn't happen to me. It happened for me, and I'll explain why in a second. But I went to rehab at 20 to 21 years old. I forgot the exact age, but at 20 to 21 years old, I get out of rehab, 30 days of militant, like military style. Like rehab's not this Beverly Hills, happy-go-lucky. Like it was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in the middle of nowhere. And you wake up at 4 a.m. You're scrubbing toilets with a toothbrush. You're getting up and cleaning the floor. It was so regimented, and I'm so glad that it happened to me. But the sad thing is I found out that 90% of the opiate addicts that were in rehab with me that I became friends with are either in prison or they died. And more than 50% of them passed away. They get back out in the streets, they overdose. A week later, funny story, a week later after rehab, it's not really funny, but I get down on my hands and knees in my living room, I start sobbing to my dad. And he almost looked like he wanted to hit me. He's like, are you back on drugs? I was like, no, the opposite. Get me the hell out of this city. I see all the spots I used to sell at. I see all the hiding spots around my room. Please just borrow me 6 months worth of rent money to get the hell out of here. Like I can't live here anymore. I don't want to be here. I was very popular back then for being a drug dealer, for being in drugs. And I went MIA for 30 days. My dealer, who was very high up, thought I either snitched or something bad happened. So like I was scared for my life even at that point where I didn't even want to live at my household in case something bad happened.
What changed in that moment for you? I mean, granted 30 days is a little bit of time, but it's not an absorbent amount of time to actually go through that experience for you to be like, no, I want to get out of Dodge?
Great question. So I give the analogy, and it's kind of funny. You've watched obviously Austin Powers, like the old school movies where he wakes up out of the ice chamber. It was almost like I just meditated for the first time after 3 years, and you're like, wow, that's fresh air. The sky is blue. The trees are green. It's almost like you wake up from a dream, and you're starting to see all these different things. You're like, holy shit, what have I done? It was just an aha moment instantly that happened. It just changed everything. And not everyone has that capability. A lot of people go back to drugs. They go to robbing, stealing, prison, death. I had, I don't know, 10 or 20 guns pulled on me before my 18th birthday.
Damn.
So the fact that I'm even sitting here is an anomaly.
It's a miracle, dude. Well, this is about you, but I'm a recovering alcoholic, and we've become friends, and we'll continue to be in that nature. And we were talking off camera to our audience, like just how similar we are, cut from the same cloth, and, and the similarities continue. So that all said, continue on. Like, where did you go from there?
Yeah, so my dad actually, thankfully borrowed me. I forgot how rent wasn't expensive. It was like $600. I was like, please just give me, I think he gave me like $2,000 or $3,000 to move to downtown Milwaukee. Very grateful because most people don't even have parents that can loan them $2,000 or something like that.
Totally.
So I went from being this, local, respected, feared drug dealer with lots of money to drug addict with no money to, okay, now I got to get my shit together. So I started bar backing at one of the new bars in downtown Milwaukee to pay my way through school. So I go from being this big shot to all of a sudden I'm cleaning toilets in front of the hottest girls in the city. Like, it was the biggest humbling piece of pie that you could imagine. Like, I'd be talking to someone and be like, oh, I got to go clean crap off the toilet. It was just and nothing against anyone that's a bar back or I've been a bar back, a server. I've had some of the craziest, lowest paid jobs that you could ever imagine. Like, my first job was cleaning foreclosed houses. Like, just dumps, right? My parents did it to humble me. So
totally.
I took another humble slice of pie by bar backing. And that's really how my career took off. I'm a social butterfly. Even though I'm a little bit introverted, I'm a social butterfly. So I would be bar backing. I would be taking, I think it was like 12 or 14 college credits. So school full-time, studying full-time, then going into work at 5 or 6 p.m., getting out of work at 2 or 3 a.m., going back to school at 6:30 or 7 a.m., did it for an entire year or 2 years. But the miraculous thing is one night the bar was filled, I believe it was on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and one of my managers came up to me and he's like, I see like you're shaking up, you're hugging, kissing all these different people. Like, do you know all these people? I'm like, yeah, they're my friends. Like, they all came to see me work tonight. He's like, but you're bar backing, like not even bartending. I'm like, yeah, but they just wanted to hang out with me. And they were like, do you think you could do this regularly? I was like, I don't know. Like, they want it, like they like the bar, whatever. And like, he's like, go change your shirt, go put the button on upstairs. I'm going to give you $100 bar tab. And then are you cool with the $100 cash tonight? I think I was making $80 a night, bar backing or something retarded.
So you're like, sure.
I was like, yeah, you twist. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll settle on 100. And before you know it, I didn't know what it was, but I started promoting nightlife. And before you know it, Wednesday nights were hosted, ladies night hosted by Jon Boles. So I'm on the flyer, my name's on the flyer. It was this huge, cool thing. And my friends and I would go out around town every weekend, and they would start yelling Jon Boles at the top of their lungs. So my friends started hyping up my name around town, and it became a brand. And then when I was on the radio, when I had interviews, in a radio segment, you can only do a 10-second advertisement. So they'd be, come to Ladies Night, hosted by Jon Boles. So they'd say my name so fast that it became, my friends don't call me Jon, it's Jon Boles. And it started from the radio segments and my friends screaming around town. So before I knew it, my buddies were creating a personal brand for me before I even knew what a personal brand was, and everyone started knowing the name Jon Boles around town. Before you know it, I'm hosting a Thursday night across the street at Dick's. I'm hosting a Friday night here. Before you know it, we're booking celebrities like the Kardashians. We're doing professional athletes. I'm the go-to guy for all of the hottest parties. If you had an event the night that I was throwing an event, it would be dead. No one would be going to your party. It was the new hottest thing.
Because they're going to be at your party.
Because it was at my party. I had the hottest girls. I had the best DJs. I wasn't just a promoter like what we see at clubs today.
Yep.
What you asked me the question off camera before, I was analytical. I'm like, okay, if I'm promoting this Wednesday, I know that my demographic are, UWM, but what if I want to get this college over here? Maybe I should book a DJ from Marquette. Hey, do you think you could bring 30 girls over from Marquette? Oh, I need a bartender from the East Valley. I need a bartender. So I was so analytical as a promoter. My nights would be stacked with 4 different people that were from different suburbs of downtown Milwaukee, and I would get the place packed. And that's how I started viewing it as a business. But before, and I don't say this is ego aside, because I wasn't happy at this process at all. Like, I was dying inside because, coming off a drug addiction, I didn't want to get paid for getting people intoxicated or promoting all these different things. So it was like a feeling inside of me was not happy with what I was doing. But I was coming off of being a drug addict loser, and now I'm this local, I don't want to say local celebrity, but like local influence of, I had all this attention, and my ego just rode on it because he didn't want them to look in the corner of the drug addict. So all the money that came in, I bought the latest flashy car, date the best looking girl, all these different things because I was so insecure of them finding out that I used to be a drug addict. So I had the biggest mask on until I was 28 years old, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But to go back to the original story, nightlife was booming, all my parties were booming. The downside of that, though, is everybody knew who I was. So nightclubs can only pack 300 people in there. What if 500 show up? Are 200 of them going to hate me? Are they going to be pissed off? My name's all over TV, magazines, it's on the radio. Before you know it, people are coming up to me at grocery stores, frustrated they couldn't get into my event. I had people following me home to my apartment, underneath in my parking ramp. I got death threats. Dang. There was so much people out to get me because they couldn't get in, but then the other people that got in loved me.
Loved it.
Well, they loved me while I had the power. Like, they loved me while they could use me to get into the clubs, etc. And yeah, it just, I was like, okay. And I knew nothing about building brands. Obviously entrepreneur at heart, but I knew nothing about it. I was like, if I create a logo and a brand, could I hide behind it? Would people stop giving me death threats? So I created a company called Promo MKE for Milwaukee, and I created an event planning company. I hired 50 team members underneath me, interns and employees that were the face of the company. They do all the flyering, they do all the marketing. Jon Boles was no longer around. He was there at the clubs, like I was still around, but I wasn't being promoted as it was my event. So the typical guy would be like, I want to be front and center. Yep. I want to be Mr. Popular. Yep. I was trying to do the opposite. Like, get me out of the spotlight. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be front and center anymore, because if something goes wrong or someone doesn't get into the club, I could potentially get shot walk into my car.
What's the business lesson there? Because a couple things that I just took away is, like, number one, reverse engineering the process from like the analytical mind, figuring out what the end goal is, and then from there, again, reverse engineering it so that way you can execute at a high level. The other business takeaway that I got was just the power of personal brand, which you kind of stumbled upon from the way I heard it, but it actually worked out really well for you. But then you transitioned because you had some complications with the story at play. Yeah. So then you transition from a personal brand to creating more of a brand that would actually lead front and center. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, 100%. And truth be told, everyone looks at me as, oh, you're one of the top brand builders. Your agency does all these different things. And the funny thing is, I stumbled upon it. It's not that I got lucky and it just happened. It's I worked my ass off for 100 hours a week. I was promoting nightclubs, and it sounds like I was partying, whatever. I was hosting for 6 hours, 7 hours after a 12-hour day at school. So I was exhausted. I had a mask on. I was miserable. I was, let's just say I was making multiple 6 figures a year at 21 years old. I was spending multiple 6 figures a year to live my lifestyle, to have people not find out that I was a recovering drug addict or a loser. So at the end of the day, investing and growing your wealth is popular now. Back then it was, I don't want these people to find out who I really am. And I believed that I was still a drug addict, that I was still a loser, but I had all this fame, I had all these things. So I just wanted to hide behind something else because I didn't want them to find out who I thought I truly was, which I wasn't a drug addict anymore. I wasn't this loser. I was an amazing human being, but it took 5 years of a spiritual journey for me to finally uncover that.
Dude, man, well, good on you. Appreciate you being vulnerable. And, that's a very, I guess, extreme story in the sense of, like, you masking your problem, but also having this other success. But let's face it, I mean, human nature, we all go through issues. We all try to mask certain things. So it sounds like yours was at a more pronounced level because of the success that you had. But I think that's a good takeaway, in terms of empowerment and kind of being true to yourself.
Yeah. Congrats on your sobriety too.
Oh, dude, thank you, man.
I haven't gone to a seminar or anything. Yeah. I just hit, I believe it's like 12 or 13 years on February 18th. now it's gotten to a place where my dad texts me, he's like, hey, happy anniversary. And I'm so busy with work right now. I'm like, anniversary for what? I'm like, oh my God. And I forced myself to take a step back for the day and just reflect at how far I've come in 12 or 13 years. Sure as I'm sure you've done the same thing.
Good on you. Yeah, I mean, I'm 5 years in and certainly still work in progress, but a big life changer for sure. Like, and I wouldn't be sitting and talking with you if I was on the path I was on, and it sounds like the same is true for you.
100%.
So, well, dude, man, I want to kind of transition at some point relatively soon to Aventry and all the success that you've had, being rated top entrepreneur and visionary for entrepreneurmagazine.com, a list of many other, accolades. But before we get into there, is there anything from a story perspective or a lesson perspective that will bridge the gap in terms of where you are?
Yeah, so it's funny, my videographer Ice and I were talking about on the way here of, everyone always asks, how did you start your agency? How did you come about to grow this powerhouse brand builder? Because first off, it's hard to build a brand, but you own a brand that builds brands. What the heck? How did you get into that?
I mean, I thought the same thing when we first connected.
It's the most difficult business I've ever had, and I'm glad that we've somewhat gotten it to a mastery type of standpoint now, 6 years into it. But to bridge the gap, so I went from nightlife, stopped doing nightlife on a whim. We were doing multiple 7 figures of revenue for our clients at the point. I was taking home a percentage of that, doing very well for myself, burned it to the ground. I was miserable. Yeah. That led on to a technologies company. We basically invented mobile point of sale systems and Apple Pay, literally 9 years ago. Got screwed over by a business partner. Won't go into legal details and things like that, but literally had the potential of $1 billion exit of picture back 10 years ago in Midwest where we're from, and you can now order on your phone and it's paid for on your phone. Picture the iPhone 3.
Oh yeah.
No one's using credit cards online yet.
Yeah.
We had that system. We got laughed out of restaurants. They're like, no one's going to adopt that. No one's going to put their phone or credit card in the phone. Now you can't go anywhere. Everything's QR codes and mobile payments and crypto. We would have had $1 billion exit. But I'm very grateful that it happened.
I was going to say, what's the lesson? Unpack that for our audience.
So my business partner, although what happened was, from my standpoint was shady and, beneath waters, I got screwed over, on about $250,000, was living off my savings. Bad experience, but I think that he is someone that instilled the work that I have in me today. The things I learned from him, he is so genius and so smart. The things I learned working side by side, we were doing 30-hour days, 24-hour days, coding and staying up in the engineering department in UWM for 2 days straight, trying to figure out algorithms and coding. And I got an F in Algebra 2. But yet I'm writing code, different algorithms on the board. My brain just evolved while working with him.
My first question, actually, when you talked about the technology company, and considering what I know to you, when I think of you, Jon, I think of this incredible brand builder, incredible marketer. Typically doesn't, kind of coincide with, computer engineer or computer programmer. So my question was, did you, from a leadership perspective, were you able to recruit, hire, and kind of lead? Or it sounds
Great
like
question.
You also did a little bit of the learning as well.
We did have a full developer, so I don't want people to think that I was sitting there hand coding different software. But I was helping with the cryptology, mathematic equations to make tokens that would rotate and turn every 90 seconds, so your credit card couldn't get hacked. Different mathematic equations like that. But I'm definitely not a programmer. Even now, I have a team of developers. I can read code. I just can't write or do any of that. But I was just a part of conversations and strategies where you're bootstrapping it. We had a team of 4 people, and we're trying to build a now multi-billion-dollar industry. We had 4 people. So just like a lot of our team now or us, you have to learn different roles. You have to wear different hats. It was a startup. So I was director of marketing and advertising, but I'm wearing 16 different hats. But
totally.
He, his family's very prominent, very successful. Won't even tell you what they do. We've all heard of it. Very prominent family. They instilled in him success at a very young age, and all of it rubbed off onto me. So although I lost money, although I didn't, get what I was deserved, the most amazing thing happened in the process, and I'm forever grateful for what I learned by working with that.
And what would that be? You said work ethic, the mentality of success?
Obsessiveness about business.
Yeah.
And I was talking, with Ice earlier. If you're not obsessed with what you do, you're going to lose to a guy like me who is obsessed. I sleep about it. I dream about it. I think about it. I'm eating breakfast and I'm thinking about it. There's not 1 second of one day where I'm not thinking of some business equation, vision, or something else. Even as I'm sitting here talking with you, there's a couple other windows open in my head of just analyzing, right? And that's what he taught me. I'm like, dude, you're like a program. You're like an AI. He's like, and he was a lot smarter than me, but it instilled off of me, and analytical, work ethic, and just doing whatever it takes to just figure out the solution. He's a scientist background, right? So science, you have to figure out the solution. You have to figure out the hypothesis. So he brought that full circle with business for me.
Dude, man, I love that. And, it's the power of also connecting and networking and rubbing shoulders with people that are better than you, or at least have a skill that you want to acquire. And I look at that like in business, in life. Also, when I bring it down to like our, audience who are interested in opening gyms, and why, group training and the concept works so well is when you have Mrs. Jones come in who isn't fit, hasn't worked out since high school, has 40 pounds to lose, she's overweight, she's insecure, but then when you put her in a group of like-minded people, like coaching, that rubs off on you, and ultimately you get to be a better version of yourself from the client perspective, but also from your lens, from a business perspective.
Oh, what you guys are doing with Fit Body Bootcamp and the Mrs. Jones, buyer persona, it's for $100 to $200 a month. That you're not, I think losing the weight is just a secondary asset that they get. Camaraderie, community, not being insecure anymore, positivity, getting your mindset dialed in. I guarantee you that every client that goes through a Fit Body Bootcamp door, just like any client that's worked with us, they have a better relationship with their significant other.
Totally.
They have a better relationship with their kids.
Totally.
They look up into the sky and it's just slightly more blue. The tree's a little bit more green. That's really what you guys are selling, and it's a genius business model, because obesity, and I won't get too off topic, obesity is one of the biggest killers in the country that no media outlet wants to talk about.
Which is insane.
And you're literally taking care of that and providing, you're like a fitness therapist, right? You're providing so many different assets that go in a full circle. And it's amazing what you guys are doing, and I think it needs to be in every single city, because obesity needs to be cut in half. America loves the Whopper, Big Mac, McDonald's, instant gratification. I don't have time to cook. I need to go through a drive-through. Like, okay, then you wonder why you're only making X per year, is because you have that mindset.
Oh, dude, amen. And people sometimes ask me, like, and this is back when I was in training and, really being an owner-operator within Fit Body, but Bryce, I can't afford to be fit. And my response is, you can't afford not to be fit. Like, this is going to change your life. You're going to be a better spouse, a better husband, a better wife, a better parent. You're going to actually make more money and be more productive to society. So,
my favorite thing is, how do you have time to read? I don't have time to read. I don't have time for this. I'm like, and this isn't current, I've ran a couple different companies for the past couple of years. It's now my main focus. But over the years, I'm like, you don't have time. I'm running 5 companies with 30 employees and investments in it. You don't have time to read?
You're prioritizing.
You work 40 hours a week.
Yeah, it's just not a priority.
Yeah, your ego does not want you to learn how to read or to lose weight, because it loves you being comfortable. And when you're comfortable, your ego gets to live, and it gets to relax, and it stays dormant in you, and it gets to live. When you try to lose weight, it's fear, fight or flight. Like, it's going to die.
And you actually have to, speaking of your story about taking a bite of humble pie, you actually have to, part of the process is humble yourself to realize, okay, I don't know what I don't know. I need to surrender to the process. I need to connect myself with a coach who has my best interest at heart and also has been where I want to be. And that's really, that's the name of the game.
Even people, when they meet me in person, they're like, wow, you're really cool in person. Like, am I not on social media? And they're like, no, I don't mean that. They say that someone that's as young as you and kind of lives the lifestyle or has the accolades or whatever, and what you have, you just act different. And can I tell you a secret? I don't look at any of that when I see myself. I just see me. I don't let any of it define me. I don't let a press release, I don't let verification on Instagram, I don't let any of it define me, because I've been at the top of a food chain in an industry, and then the world snaps its fingers and everything gets taken from you. And when you go through hell and back multiple times, and your journey is a roller coaster ride, it's ebb and flow. You have to stay humble, because there is always going to be a better looking guy than you or girl than you. There's always going to be someone that's wealthier. There's always going to be someone that has something more than you. And if you view your life based on external things, you're going to lose, because I just said there's someone out there that has more than you. Even Elon Musk, he's worth how many billions of dollars now? There's someone out there that has more time than Elon Musk. There's someone that has more FaceTime with their kids than Elon Musk. So there are things that other people have that he doesn't have.
Totally.
So at the end of the day, if you don't go inward and you just focus on external things, that's why I stay humble so much. And I literally have created processes in my brain, even though it sounds weird like a computer system, that trigger to keep me humble. that if something amazing happens, I started getting really excited, and it's like, Jon, remember the last time you got super, super excited? And then we went down in that downturn. Like, you just need to roll. Just ride the wave right now. Don't let it define you. Don't let it change you. And I have those talks with myself.
Yeah, way easier said than done, but it reminds me of a philosophy that I follow, which is Stoicism. And it's really about, conquering the internal beast. Like you talked about, like not living externally. Really, Stoicism is about, okay, there's a million things that happen today. Most of them you can't control. Let's focus on what you can control. Take action against
Huge
that.
on that, yes.
So a lot of things that you just basically, captured just reminds me of that guiding principle of Stoicism, but it's easier said than done. So good on you.
100%.
What's up, my friend? Bryce here. Now, you might know me as the co-host of this podcast and the CEO of FitBody. But what many people don't know is that I actually began my journey as a FitBody franchise owner. Now, being an owner, I wake up every day absolutely doing what I love. I live my passion. I help people transform their lives and have both financial and personal freedom. And it's for these reasons and many more that other owners join the brand and open their own FitBody locations too. So if you're looking to build a highly profitable business, take charge of your life, and create an impact in your very own community, then opening a FitBody gym might be a perfect fit for you. Now, to see if a territory is available in your area, as we have very limited spots due to our incredible growth, go ahead and visit our website at fbbcfranchise.com to complete an application. Well, thanks, and back to the show. Oh, dude. Well,
so now we're caught up.
Yeah, let's continue on. And now I want to talk about Vintiv and the work that we're doing together.
Absolutely.
And also just to kind of give some insight to, our audience, that the brand builder that you've become. I mean, you've worked with companies like Ferrari and Maserati, now FitBody Bootcamp, truly in our partner, with our supplementation. So would love to kind of, get some perspective under the hood there, the work that we're doing together and also that you do for other clients.
Yeah.
Because, our audience are interested in fitness and business and entrepreneurship and building and growing, a fitness company. So, the marketing and brand building is just like so important. So take us there.
Yes, marketing and brand building, I think, post-pandemic is the biggest topic for everyone because, the pandemic was I know it was horrible for a lot of people, but I think it woke a lot of people up. You guys included, me included, everyone got woke up to transition and change things. And underneath the hood of branding and all that, like I said, when I first got started, it kind of fell upon me. I didn't plan on it. And with all the brands I've built, I think I'm up to 12 or 13 of my own businesses now. But I've built 300 to 400 brands roughly over the past 12 years. And it's just an innate ability in me that with the visionary I told you I was born with, I'm able to see visions for companies and brands and even people that the owner can't even see. And what I'm able to do is I've built a powerhouse team of phenomenal designers, brand strategists, developers, project managers, different, SEO specialists, just different people that are able to take what I see and the visions that we see and bring it to life. And, the most beautiful thing with branding and marketing is it's really storytelling.
It is.
And so many business owners, off camera, I told you, I was a fitness business coach for a number of years and a consultant for a number of years. Like I said, I've worked with 300 or 400 people. They all have the same thing in common. They make it more difficult than it needs to be.
And I think that's the beauty of Apple, right? Like our iPhones and all that. You take this like very complicated piece of machinery and you make it so simple. Again, it's way easier said than done. But I think like having that eye for taking the complex and then actually making it simple. I mean, I can already tell working with you, that's probably one of many zone of geniuses for you.
Thank you.
And something that sounds like very, very prominent in what you see in terms of like a stumbling block that a lot of brands, have to overcome in order to kind of create that complexity and make it simple.
Yeah, so let's even take a step back. When we all get started with a business, let's just say, like, have you ever read E-Myth?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Gerber.
Yeah. So the baker, the plumber, the et cetera. Like if you're a baker, you're phenomenal at baking cakes. So you think, why would I keep working at the bakery right here? I'm going to go start my own company.
Yes.
And then I have to know accounting, finance, marketing, payroll, all the cost of goods sold, TIs, leases, all these different things. And what happens to the average entrepreneur, even me, even you get so overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, what the heck did I even get started? Why? Because school didn't teach us all these different things that we need to know, right?
No.
And I'm not bashing on school or college. Now I know that college campuses are now training people for the real world. But I went through every class known to man, and I didn't learn anything that would apply to the real life. So what happens is the average entrepreneur gets overwhelmed.
100%. And I would even question like current schools, because I am bashing on schools a little bit because, I mean, it sounds like your experience, my experience.
Mine was horrible.
Yeah, I didn't really learn anything practically that I can apply to actually what we're doing.
Yeah.
Aside from being a great time and learning some social skills.
Dude, I got made fun of all throughout school for wanting to be an entrepreneur. Like, I'll even tell you that story, but literally got bashed all throughout high school. You're never going to amount to anything. Like, everyone pay attention to Boles. He's living in the clouds. He's being too much of a visionary. And you just mentioned that entrepreneur.com offered me top visionary and top entrepreneur and visionary of the year for, I think, 2018 or 2019. Those are the two key words that teachers would make fun of me for.
Dude, that's awesome.
So how funny is it that it comes full circle that one of the biggest publications in the world for entrepreneurships, I was, blessed enough to get that, type of accolade, but it's, schools just don't prepare you for the real world, right? And it's I got made fun of all throughout the whole process. I was telling you the story. I went to my little brother's high school graduation, and get this. The dean or whatever the high school is like, to all of my visionaries and entrepreneurs out there, I can't wait to see the beautiful companies you guys create and the success you instill upon yourselves. And I'm like, one of those memes, like the meme face. I'm like, where was she 10 years ago, 20 years ago? My brother's like, what? Like, your teacher wasn't like that? I'm like, dude, you have no idea how easy you have it.
Totally.
And what happens in entrepreneurship is so many brands get started because they're good at one thing. They're good at baking a cake. They're good at personal training. They're good at building brands. They're good at all these things. But what happens is half of them don't have the mindset, which is what, some of the questions you asked me before. Mindset is the biggest and most valuable thing that anyone can master. Why? You could be so overwhelmed of a bakery or a personal training studio or an agency or an e-commerce store. But if you're insecure because you haven't tamed your mindset, if you have limiting beliefs because you haven't tamed your mindset, if you're focused on external things because you haven't tamed your mindset, you're going to get overwhelmed and either stop, pivot, give up, complain, every excuse in the book versus, like I said before, become obsessive. When I had my e-commerce company in the fitness space, it was an activewear brand that did very, very well before I exited from it. I was working 20 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. It got to the point where my two business partners came because we couldn't even afford a warehouse, so we used, because it was bootstrapped obviously, we used the print shop that was doing all of our printing as a warehouse. So I was in there from 6 p.m. until midnight, 2 a.m. packaging up orders so I wasn't in their way. It was an old school print factory, the biggest in Wisconsin, no air filtration, so I'm breathing in paint fumes every day.
Dang. Days
on end. My business partners come over at like midnight or 1 a.m. and see me passed out in the break room with blood on my glove. I started coughing up blood.
Eek.
So like, you want to talk about you don't have enough time or all these excuses, like that's obsessiveness. That is going all in on your brand, killing your lungs, coughing up blood, just to make sure that the end consumer has a phenomenal experience with your brand.
But dude, that's what it takes to win, man. That's what it takes to win. People sometimes are just allergic to doing the hard work, to obsessing about it.
Live in bumper lane society.
Dude, 100%. And you're going to lose if you compete with it.
You don't want to go head to head with someone that's obsessive, because I will think about it 24 hours a day.
Totally.
Has its pros, it has its cons with it.
It has its cons. Oh, no, cut from the same cloth here. All right, so kind of like, playing that through in your experience, working with a lot of brands, growing brands, what's like a big mistake or, a piece of like lack of knowledge that, a lot of brands just don't get and you have to be able to provide coaching, visibility, et cetera?
Yeah, so we actually created a process and a solution, which we'll talk about later, at our agency to come down to the biggest problem that we've seen with working with hundreds of different brands. They all have this roughly, except for you guys, because you guys have done a really good job at this. They don't know their ideal buyer. And what happens is with business is it's just like Instagram. It's just like TV. They want to go to the flashy thing, the cool thing. They want to go to Instagram. They want to go to advertising. They want to go to all these things, but they didn't do their due diligence on their ideal buyer. They didn't do enough research in the market. They didn't spend enough, because for me, research is a fun time. Like, I'm analytical. I research hours a day, every single day, even if to figure out a solution.
Well, it's just about reverse. We won't go back to the point that like why we were successful in many of the endeavors. Like the common theme I heard is like reverse engineering, and really like part of like a foundational building block of reverse engineering anything is putting the time in the research, so that way you can execute.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is is these business owners launch a brand and a name predominantly in the fitness industry. I've coached 50 or 60 different fitness brands. They choose the name based on what they want it to be. They choose the color based on what colors they like. They choose the font based on what font they like. They do everything for, let's say my name's James. James chooses everything James likes, but guess what? Who doesn't like it? Brittany, and guess who his ideal customer is? It's Brittany. So what happens is they build this business for, I don't know if it's ego, clout, or their own personal needs or their own personal wants, or maybe they just don't know any better. And obviously, like, you know, courses and things that are available now weren't available 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So the biggest mistake of what happens is brands don't focus on the boring stuff enough. The preliminary boring stuff, the research, everything we do at Inventive now, when we onboard a new client, the typical client we have, you know, 99% of them goes through our whole process. It's called, you know.
And we're going to, actually, I want to touch on your process, but that's probably like, as I unpack this, you know, the dozens of calls that our team, and granted, you and I probably had a handful of calls, but my team had even more calls with you, and that's part of the foundational research process and why you and now will continue to be successful even at a higher level.
Yeah, so you know, they don't want to do the boring part, which is the, you know, understanding the ideal customers, because what happens is, we just talked about James not getting the name right, not getting the branding right, not getting the colors right.
He's focused at James,
but
not Brittany,
only that,
his client.
Let's take it to what Bedros and you guys are freaking known for, is your direct response marketing, your copywriting. You guys are some of the top in the country of what I've been able to see over the past decade. What happens when his copywriting is written for James, not Brittany? What happens when his website is geared towards James, not Brittany? So what happens is these brands create their businesses based on ego, what's in their head, what they think, that, you know, what people want to see. And what happens is they jump straight to the marketing. They jump straight to Instagram, they jump straight to advertising, whatever it is, and then they wonder why their business doesn't get off the ground. So the biggest thing, predominantly what happened after the pandemic, is on average, it usually took about 6 or 7 impressions before you could acquire a lead or at least get brand awareness. It's times 3 now. You need 20 to 25 plus impressions, because everyone is rampant right now with, they're out to get me. They're going to screw us over because of what happened, without going political or pandemic talk or all of that. Everyone is looking over their back, not trusting the next person. So you have to have your brand dialed in so much more now. So before we even, obviously Fit Body Bootcamp is a little bit different of a story because we've known each other so well. So we went straight into marketing and working together in SEO. But the typical client that comes to us for marketing, we turn them down. We ask them a series of discovery questions, and when they don't know the answers, sorry, you know, you have to go through our process, because we're going to fail you if you don't know what we need you to know you. And if you're not willing to have us do it for you, it's not going to be a win-win scenario, because it will not become successful. So we're very diligent with who we work with, which is why we have so much respect within the agency world, is because I could be doing $20, $30 million a year right now if I wanted to, as from an agency standpoint, just taking on everybody, and I could be screwing half those people over by not providing them value. And that's not what I believe in. I would rather grow slower and have, you know, 15 to 30 clients that I respect, that I know, you know, first name basis, we're friends, and go to bat for them every single day. And you know what happens with entrepreneurs getting the branding not dialed in, not understanding the ideal buyers, what happens is their mindset isn't dialed in. And then they give up, they pivot, they go to another brand, and they do the same thing. And then before you know it, they're now working for someone else, or they're doing something else. It's everything I've seen from entrepreneurship always comes back down to mindset. 100%. Everything is mindset.
Amen. In fact, I mean, we teach our franchisees one of the most important, influential pieces of content you put out to your audience on a weekly basis is your Monday mindset message. That really, I mean, you know, surface level has nothing to do with fitness, but it has everything to do with fitness because of, again, for the reasons that we're discussing.
Well, I dropped my first YouTube video. Shout out to my team. It was a stressful process, but we got first YouTube video up after 5 years. It's a new fun project that I'm working on. But I had a guy that's been following me for 3 or 4 years reach out to me. He's like, hey, my wife's about to launch a lash company. And obviously lash companies aren't in our, you know, our repertoire, what we specialize in. He's like, is there any, you know, value or quick tips you can do? Dude, I typed up maybe a 30-second, 2-paragraph thing of bullet point, step by step. He's like, you just changed my life. He's like, how is it so simple for you to do? And I looked at it, I'm like, this is so simple. And I'm like, holy cow. Like something that's so simple, the average person overthinks. They overcomplicate it. They stress themselves out because their mindset isn't dialed in. So any brand that's out there, when you look at these publicly traded companies, billion-dollar brands, and they're funded, what do they first do? They go to a consultancy, don't even want to name drop some of the bigger consultancies, but they go to a bigger consultancy and they spend $100,000 doing a brand workshop, going over the market, outlaying exactly, a pitch deck or, a newer age business plan or brand workshop strategy. And it brings it back to the partners of the board of directors. And they say, hey, this is where we need to position. This is what it needs to look like. Why aren't smaller entrepreneurs doing it on a cheaper scale or a smaller scale? That's what we provide at Avintiv. So if the big guys are doing it this way and it's working for them, obviously they're saturating markets. Why are you not taking it from the playbook of the big boys? Why are you trying to carve out your own way?
I mean, success leaves clues, my friend. That's a good question.
So, there's tons of different tips and things that I could give for the average, fitness pro or entrepreneur just to get started. But people need to spend more time in the discovery stage. Stop trying to, everyone wants success tomorrow. Everyone wants to jump into a relationship. Everyone wants to buy that new car. They want that job promotion. You just need to slow down, breathe, take a breath. You might launch 3 months later than you planned on it, 6 months later. Now, I'm not saying that you should be analysis by paralysis and you never launch a brand. It has to be perfect. I don't believe in that at all. I actually call a bunch of my friends out like, dude, why are you not launching this? It looks amazing.
Let's go, yeah.
But you need to slow down a little bit and do it legitimate. Everything we do at Avintiv, and correct me if I'm wrong because you've had an experience working with us, everything we do is so careful, detail-oriented. We double, triple, quadruple check everything because you guys are a very big brand. If we get a grammar error wrong or design something wrong, so someone that's in our shoes now, we have to treat your brand as if it's our own. Your dollars that you're spending every single month with us are my dollars that I'm spending every single month with us. A client over here that's spending $100,000 on a website, that's me spending $100,000 on a website. I mean, really, because our costs are pretty high with websites, but but it's like that because if I don't become obsessed for my clients for them, why are you even working with us? Why, if my team doesn't instill in them that they are Fit Body Bootcamp when they're working on Fit Body Bootcamp, maybe they get tired and they don't edit their content. Maybe they don't do this correctly. So going back to being a leader and visionary and CEO, I instill every single team member that how you do anything is how you do everything. So it's funny because the average employee that works at Avintiv for 6 months plus, our average is 2 to 3 years with employees right now, which is great retention for the agency world because it's a very stressful environment. The average employee loses 5 to 20 pounds while working with us. Their relationship with their significant others get better. They're not working overtime. They're not working late. They're at home eating, dinner with their children. They're able to take lunch breaks. I let the team, take breaks throughout the day and go for a walk. They're actually told to. Like, our culture is so phenomenal. But why are my employees acting that way, but yet entrepreneurs aren't acting that way for their own brand? I view every day as if I'm going into battle for you every single day, even if there's no war. Because you have to view it that way. You have to be on point 24/7, which is I barely drink alcohol. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm dialed in 6 or 7 days out of the week unless I'm recharging on a Sunday. Because come Monday morning, I have 25 clients, big clients that are counting on me to lead my team to victory.
Totally. Reminds me of the saying, the more you sweat in peacetime is the less you bleed in war.
Exactly.
And really,
I love that.
That's a great takeaway. All right, so to kind of put a bow on this, and I want to leave our audience in terms of your success, your brand making and marketing ability with that Avintiv Way kind of 5-step process, because I think there's probably some good gold there to unpack and to be able to provide some value. So would you be so kind, just high level, kind of talking about your process? And I know there's some gold and takeaways for our audience.
Yeah, so it's funny because we've been doing it for 6 years. I've been doing it for almost 10. And I took a step back and I'm like, why are we complicating our service offering? Because scaling an agency is difficult. It's not a typical business. You're managing all your clients' businesses. You're managing your business. You're growing. There's so many elements. And I said, holy cow. We've been doing this process the whole way. So obviously our name's Avintiv. We're in the process of a trademark right now. We're trademarking the process, copywriting everything. And I think we're one of the only agencies in the country that has a process like this but it stemmed from me consulting for 12 years, building as many brands as I've have built, and understanding the unit economics of how a business is supposed to operate. A typical agency, not throwing shade on them, but if you work with the designer, are they going to know what cost of goods sold are?
No.
Are they going to know what operational structure looks like?
No.
What product tree or like my team gets trained on everything on how a business functions and operates from a financial standpoint, operational standpoint. So our 5-step process, five or 6 depending on where a business is. So we have 3 types of businesses that we work with. We have the startup that's funded. They've gone through a round of funding, or they've been in an industry for 10 or 12 years, and they've seen things that need to change. They come to Avintiv because they know that when they work with Avintiv, we're going to do it right the first time. They're not going to have to stress about it. So 99% of the clients that go through us, and I'll go over 3 ideal buyers, they go through the same process. It starts with a 2 to 3 day brand workshop. Now everything's obviously virtual, but we culminated the past 10 to 12 years of my consulting experience, some of my brand strategy and employees experience, and we've basically built a 2 to 3 day full-on experience brand workshop. There's about 75 diagnostic questions that we go through based in different categories between market, ideal customers, segmentation, etc., product service offering, but we gamify it. So my operations and HR specialist has a master's in psychology. So we psych people out in the brand strategy and they don't even know it. We're having you leave ego at the door. We work with a lot of high profile, powerful CEOs and things of that nature. They come with ego right away.
Totally.
So what we do is we psych them out of their own way, and we get them to be vulnerable and authentically answer things. So we're going through the entire brand workshop, extrapolating all the information and all the what you've accumulated of being 10, 20 years in your industry. We now learned all that in a 3-day period. We then spend another 30 to 50 hours of research going down every nook and cranny of all the verticals that we want to cover. Once the brand workshop is done, we make it beautiful with the brand identity and kit. We hand it back, and it's basically your brand Bible. It's a 40 to 50 page pitch deck that basically shows who you are, who you're not, mood board, the market you're going to be positioning in, how we're going to position you, what are the ideal customers we're going after, what is the marketing content and collateral and how we need to speak to them, what grammar do they use, what punctuation. We go super, super deep, and it covers anytime you bring a partner on, an employee on, a marketing agency on, you show them this deck and they're like, oh, that's who you go. Oh, that's where we're going. Oh, wow. And it gets everyone excited.
Nice.
If it's a startup, we then move on to our 5-step process, which is for brand naming. So we do a great job at researching the market, even from a trademark standpoint, and we help you craft a brand name that is going to saturate the ideal customer on what they're looking for you to be named and positioned, right? Once we're done with the name, if it's an already established business, we skip that step. Then it goes on to brand identity. So we're building out your brand identity. We're researching the market. We're helping you create your logo. We have a phenomenal 5-step process of going from sketch to vector to black and white to color. It's a full-on process. A lot of our clients love it. And we get you fine-tuned with the logo that's really going to help you sell your product or service offering in the ideal demographic and market that you're wanting to be. We're not second-guessing it. We're not doing what James did and building it how we want it to build. We're developing you an award-winning logo that is going to saturate an industry or market and become a titan. A lot of brands we work with now are pushing $100, $200 million in revenue, and they were startups. So We're doing a pretty good job, if you ask me, from a positioning standpoint. Once you're done with the brand identity, we obviously go to the typography, colors, etc. We get that wrapped up. If you're a product business like Truline or a CBD company or a beverage company, we then move on to product packaging. So we go over and we help you with your bottle labels, your packaging. We work with different wholesalers and retailers like Whole Foods or 7-Eleven, and we get the dye lines and all the UPC guidelines of what we need to do. We get you dialed in with that, and then we move on to building you a custom website. So whether you're e-commerce or brick and mortar or informational website, we do custom in-house design and development on WordPress and Shopify. And then we help you draft up a launch marketing campaign. And then obviously with, like you guys are working with us, we have a 98% client retention rate. So our LTV of a client working with us.
Lifetime value?
Yeah, when they go through our whole process, something really weird has to happen or they sell their company for us to lose them as a client. Because picture me saying before, we're going into battle every day working with each other. We've just spent 6 months dialing in your new baby, getting everything perfect for you. You're excited, you're happy, you're motivated, but you haven't made any money yet based on your investment yet, right? You know it's going to make money, but then we move on to the marketing, right? So we specialize in SEO, PPC, and content creation. We used to do Facebook ads, Instagram. with how the algorithms are, we're not rock stars at it. We don't want to act like we're rock stars at it. We only offer service offerings to clients where we put our stamp of approval that say, hey, we're going to hit a grand slam for you. If it's a two base hit or a one first base hit, we're not interested in it.
Dude, I want to interject here because there's so much gold there, and it's really just also a message for audience in other business platforms. I feel like a lot of businesses try to be too many things to too many people, and at first, you feel like you need to for whatever reason. We'll just use the fitness example. You need to be a fat loss program, you need a circuit training program, you need a muscle building program, you need to be an Olympic weightlifting program, and before you know it, like you've lost your identity. And I think there's so much value in knowing what your zone of genius is, knowing your dream client. And for us at Fit Body Bootcamp, it's Mrs. Jones. She's 40 years old. She has a couple kids. She hasn't worked out in a long time. She has 40 pounds to lose. She needs more confidence. And when you get super clear on who you're targeting, then everything becomes better. So that relates to the fitness business, that relates to your business in terms of working with brands. And I just wanted to highlight that piece of value because it's gold.
I appreciate that 100%. And let's take it even one step further. Once you know your ideal customer, like I just said, we're launching marketing campaigns. We've hit record numbers with TrueLean every single month with SEO and content. We're in the same process with Fit Body Bootcamp, and then we're going to be doing it on a local basis for 300 locations. But picture if the client didn't go through the process, and you guys have already gone through a process like that, otherwise you wouldn't know who Mrs. Jones is. But picture the client that wants to launch marketing, or the average fitness pro or gym owner, they want to go straight to the marketing. But I just told you a whole 6-month process that we spend. Our clients are going to walk circles around you. Why? Because they took the time, they invested the capital, and they invested the time. Again,
they reverse engineered it through your guidance.
Yeah, to go through the whole process. So if my team's drafting up a marketing campaign, which we do a great job, we're not perfect by any means, but we know what we know and we admit what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't go through a whole process, whether it's by yourself or with us, we can't provide you success within marketing unless you know the business like the back of your hand, and you don't need a brand workshop, or you don't need that whole process like I talked about. It's really hard to market them at the end of it. So what we're doing with Fit Body Bootcamp, like a lot of the SEO and content creation that we're doing, we're doing different buyer stages. Like we already know Mrs. Jones. We know her, just as, probably not as well as you because you've been in it for a while, but TrueLean had the same ideal customer. And, we got to know her, through the 6 months of working with each other. We're now writing content in all your marketing campaigns based on her buyer journey from an awareness, consideration, and decision stage. So now we're helping Fit Body Bootcamp provide so much value to Mrs. Jones because we know exactly what stage she's going to be consuming information in. When should we hit her with a free trial? When should we hit her with value, propositions or different things? But if we didn't know all the beginning stuff that you guys have already invested in, how could we do what we're doing right now?
You
couldn't. So for anyone watching, it's not rocket science. It's 2 + 2 = 4. Stop trying to get to 5. It just doesn't. You're going to kill yourself trying if you don't do it the right way. And trust me, I get it. People don't have X amount to invest in their brands, but it's not rocket science to depict what I just said. Take this bit of knowledge that I just said, that's our process, and start researching everything. How do I do a brand workshop? How do I do this? How do I hire someone for a brand identity if I don't have a budget? There's so much research out there for the average person to take what I just said and go reverse engineer it themselves.
Dude, man, love it. And I wanted to teach it. I want to be able to provide your guidance and your insight on it. And of course, if you're watching this and you're interested, in opening a fitness business, the beauty of Fit Body Bootcamp is we already have all that figured out. We've done the diligence. We've done the research.
You do everything.
Which is incredible. But dude, man, you provide so much value. I want to thank you so much. We still have a few minutes left, but you've been very grateful and gracious with your time. And I know added so much value in this context.
I hope so.
But we still have time for the lightning round if you're up for it.
Done.
All right, cool. We got a few minutes left, so let's go. First question, lightning round. Passion. You're a passionate dude. What would you say today is your biggest passion and why?
Biggest passion is it took a number of years to get to this point. Like I said, I've built 12 of my own companies. I've sold 2. I burnt many of them to the ground because they weren't my passion. My passion is helping other people, giving life back to entrepreneurs. Because the clients we work with now, such as Fit Body Bootcamp, we have some industry giants now that are actually leading industries. And what I think about when I wake up and I'm me for the day and I provide so much value for what we do, I know that I'm actually impacting the entire industry. When you think about it from a granular or minute standpoint, let's just say one of our clients has 200 employees across the country and they're growing like the speed of light. Are they going to make more money now? Are the customers going to have a better experience? That goes back into the community. It makes growth. You can hire more employees. If we help Fit Body Bootcamp to 2,000 locations, you're going to be growing revenue in 2,000 locations, more employees in 2,000 locations. So my passion is so universal and global of just making the world a better place, and building brands and giving value and how I'm doing it is my life's purpose and passion.
Dude, love it. Grateful for you as well.
Thank you.
Zone of
Grateful for
Genius.
you.
Thank you. Likewise. Zone of Genius. What is your unique, skill factory installed?
There's a couple quirky ones, but the number one is vision. I thought that it was standard, like in your operating system when you're born and everything else, but I can actually close my eyes and see movies play. I can actually have you close your eyes. Like I used to do it with our team where I'd write a 3 or 4 page vision of where the company's going, and I'd have them open their eyes and 2 of them are in tears. So I can literally explain in such detail, make you smell, taste, see, all while your eyes are closed, and it's all a movie that can play in here. And I do that with brands. I do that with my future. That's how I manifest so many things. If I want to grow over here or get this next car or do this next thing or build this company, I go back to my vision. But the downfall, as we talked about, is the integrator portion. So I have these massive visions and these grandiose visions, but it's finding the team and the hiring enough people to put that into play. So I would say vision is probably the number one thing.
Love it. Needed. Next question. What is, let's see here, a unique value bomb that a starting entrepreneur probably should know, but they don't?
Go in on yourself before you ever do anything with entrepreneurship. What I mean by going in all on yourself is read as many books as you can get your hands on. I've hired some of the top coaches in the world, even hired Bedros, and Bedros isn't cheap. A lot of the coaches aren't cheap, and they shouldn't be. They have so much value and information. But what people don't realize is like, but Jon, I can't afford a $100,000 mastermind. Go buy his book. It's $16 on Amazon. I go back to mindset and books and getting your own mind, body, and soul dialed in. Start meditating, start reading books, cut out alcohol, cut out sugar. Just get your life dialed in before you ever step in the entrepreneur ring, because it's going to be the biggest right hooks to your face you ever experienced.
Oh, yes, it will. Bam, mic drop for sure. So speaking of coaching, next question here. You're in the business of giving incredible advice to your teams, to your followers, to your clients, your previous coaching clients. What's been one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received, and why?
Be your most authentic self. It took many, many years. I know this is lightning round and I'm a storyteller. It took many, many years before I went down my spiritual journey, hired some of the top coaches in the world, because I wasn't happy. And I was like, okay, it's going to be a lot of money, but I believe in myself to become happy. And if you're not your most authentic self, you're worried about what people think of you. You're insecure. You're always looking over your shoulder. What should I post? How should I do this? Just be you.
Be you.
There is only going to be one beautiful you. I don't care if you're overweight, underweight, rich, poor. Be you. Because once you're you and you accept that, that is when the world changes for you.
Dude, love that. We talked about books and mentorship and knowledge acquisition. What would be a top book recommendation that you would recommend our audience?
I'm a huge proponent. It's a little bit deep, but Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and A New Earth are by far 2 books that have changed my life. Anytime, because my life is not sunshine and rainbows at all, even if Instagram or other people may assume that, because everyone does nowadays.
Yep.
I go through a lot of growing pains throughout the year where I achieve a goal, I become obsessive, and I finally accomplish something, and I'm numb, and I'm like, oh, I hit it sooner than I thought. So what happens is, and everyone could be saying, well, oh, he's complaining about hitting goals and making X. What happens is I go back to the power of now, and it really teaches you that you're not being present. And it teaches you to slow down and become present, go inward, stop going external. And I get so sometimes caught up in providing for my family, providing for my clients, providing for the world, that I forget to provide for myself. And the power of now teaches you to slow down and just be present. Your thoughts are either, mainly the ego is either past or future, and it uses the past trauma to dictate where you're going in your future. But when you're present, you and I's companies could be burning to the ground right now, but right now we really have no problems.
Boom.
There's no issues.
I love that. And then actually, having stage presence and presence is something that we both have, and certainly a skill that we worked on. And I read this a while back. Okay, how can I even acquire more influence, or specifically more present? And the answer is to be present. that's actually how you create more presence, whether it's on stage or it's in front of a crowd. And diving deeper into the books and the content will actually just help you with that.
100%.
All right, my friend, dude, this has been incredible. I have one last question for you. You've added so much value, but for our audience, again, interested in fitness, business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, just really wanting to be better, what would your last piece of parting wisdom be?
Last piece of wisdom is stop looking at what all these other people are doing from Instagram to YouTube to TikTok and trying to be something that you're not, and just focus on yourself and go inward, go all in on yourself. And just once you figure out who you are internally, you get past the trauma that you've gone through your life, because we all have it, and you step into your full power, that is when you can become or evolve into whoever you want to be. All my coaching and advice goes back to inward, becoming your best self, because if I could talk all day about branding and building brands and how to be a billion-dollar brand, but if you're not dialed in mentally or physically, like Fit Body Bootcamp, we talked about physically, mentally and physically, you're not going to win the race. You could get halfway through and then you have a heart attack because you're too stressed out, your cholesterol's too high. Or you could go commit suicide because mental health and awareness is such a big thing now. It should have been, this whole time.
Yeah, it happens.
So getting your mind, body, and soul dialed in is going to be the biggest investment you can ever make in yourself.
Boom. Mic drop, my friend. All right, before we wrap, which we're wrapping now, at least for you viewers at home, but I have the privilege and honor to hang out with you for a few more hours as we storyboard some more stuff and grow our brand and help more people in the process. But where can our audience find you or connect you with that?
Yeah, so mainly on Instagram, Jon Boles, it's JONBOLES. I just launched a new YouTube channel. We're going to be dropping videos every single Tuesday. It's going to be half lifestyle, behind the scenes of me growing brands, traveling with phenomenal guys, like Bryce over here. And then doing a lot of value adds. So definitely check that out. I am on Facebook and a couple other platforms, but those are really the two that I'm most prominent on.
Heck yeah, rock and roll. My buddy Jon, before we wrap today, man, I just want to acknowledge you, the way you show up. We've known each other for a handful of months, actually previously met a few years ago, but more on a consistent basis. Yes. And it's been a pleasure and honor. I love how you show up. I love your energy. I love your focus, certainly kindred spirits, and you've added a lot of value to our audience. You've added a lot of value to me, and I just want to thank you for not only being on the show, but for being you.
Of course. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother. It was awesome, man.
You're my hype man.
All right, friends. I know you got a ton of value. Assuming that you do, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and write us an awesome review on iTunes. That we can keep producing this content for you for free. My brother Jon, thanks again for being on the show. Absolutely. And my friends, we'll see you in the next episode.